Welcome back. Well, you may have noticed pretty weak stock markets this Tuesday, and that was in part due to a rather strong jobs number that was released. It's not the non-farm payrolls, it's the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, a lesser known JOLTS survey. Now, we will ask you if you think the market was right in selling off as a result of the strong jobs number. The strong jobs number led the stock market to believe that the Federal Reserve may be closer to raising interest rates, meaning the economy is strong. Well, we can take a look at the August 1st number that was released on Tuesday, 9610. Now, this is actually reported in thousands, but just for the sake of ease. It's 9610, and we can see this is the highest number since May. The best number since May. What this indicates is a number of openings in all non-farm sectors. Is this the best number we've seen since May? It looks like it. Was this a really good jobs number? Well, let's zoom out and take a look at some more data. This is what the JOLTS non-farm number looks like going back to 2022. Again, on the right-hand side, that's today's or Tuesday's number. And we can see, yeah, it's as good as it's been since May. But taking a look at the bigger picture, we can see this is on the very much lower end of a 2-year cycle. And we can almost draw a trend line showing a long-term trend to the downside. Here's on a month-over-month basis. This is the change, the increase or decrease in the number of jobs. The survey asks how many jobs, how many openings are there. The biggest increase is non-durable goods manufacturing. Now we know durable goods are those goods that are meant to last more than 5 years. Washing machines, appliances, computers, things like that. Non-durable goods are those that are meant to last less than 5 years. Maybe clothing, things that we would throw away pretty quickly. Well, the job openings in that sector is up 33% on a month over month basis. Some of the weaker areas include leisure, hospitality, retail, trade, transportation, utilities. But aside from the non durable goods manufacturing, it kind of looks like a mixed bag of numbers over here. But it gets a lot more clear on a year-over-year basis. Remember, the non-durable goods manufacturing was up on a month-over-month basis 33%. Well, on a year-over-year basis, it's down 25%. There's 25% less job openings in non-durable goods manufacturing than there was this time last year. Also, some weaker spots include leisure hospitality, retail trade, accommodation, food services. Looks like lots of services are really down. Trade, transportation, utilities, arts, entertainment. The strongest sector, though, there's only two sectors that have actually a greater amount of jobs or job openings this time this year than this time last year. Construction, it's at 1%, and the winner, government. Government jobs represent the greatest increase in the number of openings. Everything else across the board is pretty much negative. Now, here we see the total non-farm openings. Now, again, this is not non-farm payrolls that we're going to get at the end of the week. This is the JOLT survey. It's a different measure of jobs. It measures the job openings as opposed to the non-farm payrolls, which shows how many new jobs were created in a particular sector over the course of the month. The red line is the S&P 500. Going back to 2021, we saw a pretty strong correlation. Stocks went up under an environment on a year-over-year basis. We saw a pretty nice increase. Now, of course, this is comparing 2021 to 2020. But then again, the stock market also reflects an increase in corporate earnings comparing, 2021 to 2020. So it's actually a pretty fair comparison. Now we hit these significant lows the end of 22. Now, this number, the non-farm openings on a year-over-year basis has remained negative all the way through present day. This, by the way, is the overall number. We're going to take a look at the individual components, but the overall number shows us a fewer amount of job openings year-over-year basis, about 6% to the downside than this time last year. The question is now, the stock market we know has been very weak. This S&P 500 chart is ratcheted to August 1st to match the latest JOLTS survey. However, the question is, does the stock market go down to match the rather weak amount of openings, or do both maybe move to the upside? Here's a 3-year correlation in the S&P 500. On the left-hand side, this is a total non-farm sector. So this is all the different sectors together. This has the strongest correlation over the past 3 years of the S&P 500. A 73% correlation is a very strong correlation. And maybe this is the case because the S&P 500, really reflects all the different industries within our economy. So this makes sense. The strongest correlation would be a mixture of, the different sectors. Leisure hospitality is a 67% correlation, accommodation, food services, construction, education, health services, trade, transportation, and state and local. These all have very strong correlations. There's 60% and above. That's a strong correlation. 53%, not as much. That's retail trade, 48% correlation, non-durable goods manufacturing. Remember, that was the weakest on a year-over-year basis. And then the arts, entertainment, and recreation. So we can exclude arts and entertainment, maybe retail trade. They're not as representative of the S&P 500. Interesting to see, though, that if you take all of these and sort of come up with an average, that actually best correlates with the S&P 500. Well, these are the job openings this month, which show us where there are the greatest amount of job openings. To be sure, education, health services, 18% of all the job openings are in this sector. Trades, transportation, utilities, state and local. Leisure hospitality is 11%. Healthcare, social assistance. Notice healthcare, education, and health services. It's probably the largest industry in the country these days. Government, which was the really one of the only winners as far as the amount of jobs opening increases on a year-over-year basis, that represents 10% of all the job openings. Some of the smaller sectors include arts, entertainment, that's only 2%. Non-durable goods manufacturing, remember, this was not as closely correlated. So we can see, I would say the takeaway from this: healthcare, leisure, hospitality, services. We know this is a service-driven economy to a large extent. Trade, transportation as well, and also accommodation, food services, education, healthcare services. That seems to represent the greatest amount of job openings. Over here, we can see the month-over-month change of job openings. Now, we broke this down by month and by industry. So you may ask, well, which month on average, and this goes back several years, which month on average produces the best number and the worst number as far as a job openings? Well, we can see here in May, leisure hospitality, that's a 26% increase, meaning on an average in the month of May, the amount of job openings increases by 26% in leisure hospitality. Also in May, accommodation and food services, that's up 29%. Arts, entertainment, recreation, that's in February, up 29%. Some of the weak parts look to see here: arts, entertainment, recreation in April. So it looks like maybe short-term job openings, but that's a rather small sector. Leisure hospitality is quite weak in April, but then again, very strong in May. Where are we now? September? Well, the bright spots for September, I'm sorry, actually October is where we are now. 5% education, healthcare services, leisure, hospitality, healthcare again. And we look towards the end of the year, construction looks like a lot of hiring on average towards the end of the year, as well as trade, transportation. So very interesting to see the breakdown by month and industry. And then we see over here, very interesting. This is the monthly change, a month over month change in terms of the actual numbers. And these are in thousands. The red histogram shows us the job openings, the amount of thousands of new openings that are given to us or taken away, going back to 2021. The white histogram bar shows non-farm payrolls, which we're going to get at the end of the week. Interesting to see, back in 2021, there's a pretty strong correlation. We don't have to be exact about this, but you can see that when the red histogram bars are strong, so are the white ones. But things sort of changed 2022 and 2023. We see the non-farm payrolls, it's not on an apples to apples comparison because there's always an increase in the amount of jobs, or just a lesser amount. But nevertheless, it looks like the job openings number is a lot more volatile. And it looks like these days there's actually very much of a decrease. The non-farm payrolls, it's not as good as it was. The question is at the end of the week, given that today's number, if you read the financial publications, will say, hey, this is the greatest number. It's the strongest job openings number since May. Well, that's true. However, we know from the bigger picture, May was really not that great of a number. It'll be interesting to see, what do you think the jobs numbers are going to look like on Friday based on this information? And we'll be back to discuss that and many more events on the economic calendar. We hope this has been helpful. We look forward to seeing you back soon.